Open eye, feel the waves cut through me. Hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight,
all right, I love it.
Chemicals collide.
Zoom chat and Facebook chat today. Look at that. That's awesome. So, you guys can hear me out there? I see some faces if you're with me and can hear me. I'd love to see your faces if you could turn your cameras on. We are about to get started. I am so excited too, Joanne Mendoza and Andy Reagan. Let's go now. Yes, I love it. How's everybody doing today? Well, today I'm so excited because we are not only live here with you guys out there in Facebook and your VIP backstage, I also have a live backstage audience. So I don't know if we can make enough noise where they can hear you, but if so, let them know you're here, guys. Woo! All right. Now, if you guys just heard that, let's give some hearts and thumbs up and say, yes, yes, I did. Are you guys ready for an amazing day? Oh my God, I see all the hearts blowing up. This is awesome. I am so excited to be doing this with everybody today. Are you guys ready? Today we got an awesome lineup. I know you guys have been talking about your goals and getting things ready for your new life and the next level that you are about to achieve, and I'm just so excited to be here. So if you guys are ready, we're going to bring Brad out here in just a second, but we just want to make sure that you guys are ready for Brad, and if you are, I want you to shout out, Brad, give me some hearts, give me some thumbs up. Let's go, Brad. Wave your hands if you're on camera. I want to feel your energy. So let's go. Are you guys ready? Let's give it up. Let's go. Let's get the energy high. We're going to be bringing Brad on here in just a second. I feel love. Keep going. We are having an amazing time. Are you ready? Is Brad ready? I don't know. I need live audience and more people. Keep it going. Okay. All right. Keep it going. Keep it going. Thumbs up and hearts on the Facebook Live. Let's go. Are you ready? Are you ready? All right. Brad's ready. If he keeps you guys going, thumbs up, hearts up. Everybody stand. Let's go. Bring the energy. This is what we need to change our lives. New energy. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's go. Brad Sumrock. Let's go. Woo! Yeah. Woo! Yes. We got all the hearts and thumbs up going. Yes. Keep it going.
Let's go. Is there any music? Let's go. Let's go now. Let's go now. And today is day 3. Can you believe it? Day 3. So we talked about so much already in day 1 and day 2. We talked about money, getting your money right, mindset. We talked about how we think about money. We talked about mechanics, how we do things. We talked about mastery. We talked about the 3 ways to invest. How many people are committed to being a GP? And for the live audience, if you're committed, let me hear you too. Let's blow it up. Blow up the Facebook page. Come on, let's blow up the Facebook group. That's right. And today we're talking about one of my favorite subjects because we're going to talk about the return on investment for multifamily. So yesterday we talked about the 3 ways to invest, right? Remember, we talked about being a GP, right? Grant Cardone talks about 10 timesing your money. Who's committed to 10xing their money as a GP? Let me see it. I see Christina Weaver is committed to being a GP. Who else is committed to being a GP? Come on, let's go. All right, I love seeing the commitments to be a general partner. Okay, I see Mary Beth is a GP. And the thing is, see, GPs get paid not 1 way, not 2 ways, not 3 ways, but 4 ways, and sometimes more than 4 ways. And let me review those ways. Number 1, the GPs get a return on their money, just like the passive investors. Number 2, they get what we call additional carried interest. And carried interest is a disproportional piece of the pie, a disproportional piece of the cash flow above and beyond their capital investment, and a disproportional piece of the sales proceeds. So I shared with you some examples about how I put in $100,000 as a GP and sold a deal and got $886,000. I'll remember that from yesterday. And here was the secret. I wasn't the only GP. And see, this came out in the VIP backstage session. We got a lot of questions about, well, Brad, how much time does it take to be a GP? You know, because GPs got to find the deals. They got to underwrite the deals. They got to make the offers. They got to raise the money. They got to secure the debt. Then they got to manage the asset. And that sounds like a lot of work. And it is for one person. And that's why in the Sumrock program and the Sumrock ecosystem, we encourage what we call co-general partners. And so most of the deals that I do now, I shared with you yesterday, I've invested over $4.9 million of me and Jennifer's money into 5 deals as general partners this year, over 1,500 doors. And here's the secret. I'm not the only GP in these deals. Okay, I partner up with people that we have synergistic relationships. So, you know, maybe I'm bringing in a lot of the equity, and maybe my partners are doing a lot of the finding the deals and sourcing the deals and underwriting the deals. And maybe another one of my co-general partners is managing the asset post-closing and doing all the due diligence. And so you see, when you're willing to work with a team of people, if you're going to do everything all yourself, you're going to stay small and you're going to be limited. If you're willing to work with other people, you're going to go bigger, faster, or you're going to help more people, and you're actually going to make more money for you and your family. So that's what we're all about here at Sumrock. And so today, we're going to shift from talking about the 3 ways to invest to how do we actually make money. So I'm going to talk about how we make cash flow. I'm going to talk about how the deals double their money, and then show you some of the numbers about how that equity doubling gets divided between GPs and LPs, and how GPs are truly 10xing their money and LPs could be 2xing their money. And I'm going to show you the examples of how you could reduce or eliminate taxes. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to go get my clicker. All right, I got my clicker. Woo! Now, the funny thing is, I always tell people in my 3-day seminars, the only tool I know how to use is a wine bottle opener. And I get this question a lot. Another question is, well, Brad, do I have to be a handyman? You know, so one is, how much time does it take? It doesn't take a lot of time, maybe 5 to 10 to 15 hours a month if you have co-general partners. Okay, so we're leveraging other people's synergistic strengths. You know, we're here in Napa right now doing a mastermind, and we talk about what are your superpowers, what are the things you bring to the table as a potential co-general partner, and then we try to find people that have synergistic skill sets. So, but here's the cool thing, nobody needs to be a handyman, okay? We usually need somebody that's good with numbers. We usually need somebody that's great on relationship building to get deal flow. We need somebody that could bring in a lot of equity, and we need somebody that really loves managing the asset. Now, sometimes that's one person, but that is a full-time job. But if you're willing to share those pieces, now it becomes part-time. So for the deals that I'm a GP in, it takes me very little time per month because my passion, my energy is on building the Sumrock educational platform, where we do these free events, we do 3-day events, we have mentorship programs, and we do masterminds like the one we're doing with all of you folks here in Napa. So let me hear you from all the Napa folks. And let me hear all you folks here on Facebook. Let's blow it up, and I'm going to get started. So if you remember yesterday, I introduced what I call my 4-step framework. Okay? Look, anytime you want to be successful, all you really need to do is follow a proven roadmap. Some people call it a blueprint, a roadmap. I like to call it a framework. And what we've been focusing on this week so far, and we'll continue to focus on today, is understanding the deal. And so part of understanding the deal is understanding the different ways that we make money. Now, who wants to make more money? If you want to make more money, blow up the Facebook group, and all you folks here, blow it up. Who wants to make some money? Let me hear you. Who wants to pay less taxes? Let me hear you if y'all want to pay less taxes. So this is what we're going to do, okay? So I already kind of gave you the pre-frame of this is what we're going to be talking about. So number one, I'm going to break down how these deals cash flow. and how we get potentially high single digit or low double digit cash on cash returns. That's what we're going to talk about today. Number two, I'm going to talk about how we increase our net worth and become wealthier by buying properties that go up in value, and how we make them go up in value by the market and by our skill set and expertise as owner operators. And I'm going to show you how we 2x to 20x our money. Now again, if you're a passive investor, you're more likely to 2 times your money. If you're a GP or a co-GP, you're going to 5, 10, or 20 times your money on these deals. And then finally, this is the cash flow quadrant on this slide, ESBI. It stands for employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. And those are the average tax rates, the different, the 4 ways that we make money. That's the average tax that you're going to be paying. Now, we make a lot of money at Sunrock that's earned income. And all the money we make from masterminds and mentorship, I'm not going to lie, we earn a nice amount of money doing that. And so that's all taxable income if we didn't do anything else with it. But we put that money we earn into apartments and get depreciation losses. And now those losses are offsetting our income, so we pay 0 tax. So I'm going to break down each of these. And the first thing we want to do when we understand the deal is understand the business model for multifamily investing. And this is a formula that you all want to write down, and you want to get to know this formula. And it's the NOI divided by the cap rate equals the value of the property. So unlike single family, unlike some other asset classes, multifamily is an income-based valuation, which means the higher the income, the more it's worth. Okay, so if we could take an asset like an apartment building, and we could see how how NOI is broken into 2 pieces, if we could raise that operating income piece, and if we could optimize or decrease the expense piece, then the NOI goes up and the property value goes up. So does everyone follow that? If you guys follow that, I know all you folks here in Napa understand this because this is my advanced group of mastermind people. But for some of you that are tuning into Facebook, this might be your first exposure to it. So let me know that you're following the NOI divided by cap rate is the value and the business model for every apartment building, no matter where it is, no matter how many doors, no matter the property class. The business model is the same. Okay, that's right, James. That's right, Michael Guthrie. Michael Guthrie's here in the room, by the way. The business model is the same. It's to raise the operating income and decrease and optimize the operating expenses. It's the same for every apartment building in the United States, if not the world. And so there's 101 ways to raise the operating income. It's true, we could raise rent, we could raise occupancy, we could create other sources of non-rental income, things like income for reserved parking spaces, covered parking spaces, laundry, pets. There's cable, smart technology. There's literally 101 ways that you could buy an apartment building and raise the income. Okay, and there's an equally number of 101 ways to decrease and optimize the expenses. Water conservation is a very popular one. Installing low-flow toilets and shower heads, as an example, could drive water bills by 30, 40, or 50%, raising the NOI. Okay, so that's just some examples of how we do this. Now, I'm going to show you some numbers. And yesterday, we went through an example deal of a $10 million deal. Y'all remember that? If you remember the $10 million deal, and we need $3 million down and we get a $7 million loan. Do y'all remember that from yesterday here in the Facebook group? Let me know you remember that from yesterday. Give me a thumbs up. Okay, I see Christina Weaver, you remember. The Gandera sisters, you remember. Ezekiel, you remember. Mary, you remember. Carolina, you remember. That's awesome. So I'm going to build on that example. So we have the 100-unit deal that we talked about yesterday for $10 million, and we're going to assume for educational purposes that the rents are $1,000 a month. Now, the total annual income is going to be $1.2 million. So how do I come up with that? 100 units times 1,000 a month times 12 months. Now this is a very simplified model. I'm not assuming any non-rental income. There's always going to be non-rental income. But just for purposes of today, we're just going to assume that it's all rental income. You got me? You with me on that? You guys with me here in person on that? Say aye. Aye. Okay. The next step is we're going to assume that the expenses are $700,000. Now these operating expenses include everything needed to run the building. It includes repairs. It includes maintenance. It includes advertising and marketing. It includes apartment locators. It includes payroll. It includes taxes. It includes insurance. It includes paying your property management company 3, 4, 5, 6% of the collected rent. Okay, so everything related to running the property is included in your expenses. And usually there's an income to expense ratio. Okay, and I'm not going to go into those nuances today, but what I'm showing here is a fairly typical income to expense ratio. So we have a 1.2 million income, we have 700,000 expenses, and that's going to result in an NOI of $500,000. So for those of you on Facebook, if you follow how I got the 500,000 annual income, let me see a thumbs up from you. Go ahead, post it in the comments. Post it in the comments that you understand how I came up with $500,000. Great, or give me a thumbs up. Awesome. So now what we do is we divide by a cap rate. Okay? Now, there's no cap rate book. You don't just go to some book or Google online and say, hey, what's the cap rate? So the cap rate is, what is somebody willing to pay to buy a $500,000 income stream? So here's how we do it. If somebody is willing to pay $10 million to buy an income stream of $500,000 a year, that's a 5% cap rate. Okay? If somebody is willing to pay $5 million for a $500,000 income stream, that's a 10% cap rate. So right now, average cap rates in the United States arguably are around 5%. In fact, that is the average cap rate right now in the U.S. across all markets and all property classes is about 5.1%. So this 5% here that I'm using in the example is a pretty realistic number. Now, if you're buying in a market that has more demand than average, that has a newer property than the average, then that cap rate is actually going to be 4%. Okay? So if you buy a Class A property in Miami, like Grant Cardone, that might be like a 3% cap rate. Okay? If you buy a 1970s asset in Fort Worth, Texas, it might be a 5.5 or 6% cap rate. Okay? If you buy a 1980s property in Tampa, Florida, it might be a 4.75% cap rate. So cap rates vary by location and by property class. But for purposes of today, we're going to use the U.S. average, which is about 5%. Again, that's across all property classes and all markets in the United States. So here's the deal. If the NOI is $500,000 and I'm buying the property at a 5% cap rate, that means I'm willing to pay $10 million. So hopefully everybody understands that. For the folks online, if you understand that, give me a thumbs up. Go ahead, give me a thumbs up. I love seeing all the thumbs up. That means you guys are super smart and super good listeners, by the way. And it also means, Krista, I love it. Yeah, you guys are super smart and super good listeners. What do all you folks here in the mastermind think about all these thumbs up right now? Yeah, let's go. Let's go. So this is important. You don't have to know a lot of the nuances for this, but you really do want to understand how we buy these deals and how we raise the value. Now here's the deal. Let's say I pay $10 million for this property, but the only way I'm going to pay $10 million is if I know I could go in there and raise the income. So in this situation, I'm buying the property where the income is $1.2 million a year, but I know that either rents are going up organically, or I know that I could go in there and manage it better, or I know from knowing the market and the comps that I could go in there and do some improvements and rehab, capital improvements, upgrading the amenities, upgrading the units, and I could raise the operating income. Okay? So in this example, I'm showing we're raising the operating income by about 10%. Now here's the deal right now. This is why we call this the Invest in Apartments Now challenge. In the old days, we used to have to do tons of rehab to get that 10% increase in rent. And right now, we have to do very little. We're becoming a renter nation. Y'all remember Bobby Castro on day one? We talked about the demographic shifts that are happening. Look, rents are skyrocketing. Inflation is rampant. The Fed's printing money. And so what that does is this benefits us as apartment owners. So right now, unlike the past, rents are going up 10%, sometimes organically, where we don't have to do anything. So we're buying deals right now where rents are going up 5, 10, 15% on renewals. So that's not a far stretch to come in and raise income by 10%. And we're going to look at optimizing expenses. And I assumed in this model that we could cut expenses by only 5%. And I gave you an example of doing water conservation that could drop utility bills, water bills by 30, 40, 50% alone. And that's just one strategy out of like 101. So this is a very realistic scenario where I buy the deal for $10 million, raise the income, optimize the expenses. The new NOI is no longer $500,000. It's $655,000. And this happens in a very short period of time after we own the property. Let's say we buy the property and implement these strategies, and within 1 year, 2 years, pretty conservative, but within 1 year, we could raise the income, the NOI, by that much. And at the same cap rate, the property is no longer worth $10 million. It's worth 13.1. So we just bought the property at 10, and now it's worth 13. And let me give you a real example. I bought a property in February 2020 as a co-general partner with one of my students, one of my mentees, Tahid, and he's here in Napa with us. And we paid $21 million. We did a $7 million raise, got a $14 million loan. That property today is worth $34 million. $34 million. Okay? So as a co-GP, that gain of 21 to 34 million, that's $13 million gain. Now, me and Tahid get 20% of that gain as general partners. And let's say we split that 20%, that 13 million, 50-50. So 20% of 13 million is 2.6 million. And we split that 50-50. So my net worth went up by 1.3 million just from owning that property. Now that's the power of being a general partner. Now the passive investors that invested 100,000, that 100,000 is easily worth over 200,000 right now. So their money doubled, but my money, my 100,000 is now worth multi-million dollars. So that again is just tying back to what we talked about yesterday, is why you want to be a GP, and also why you might still want to be a passive investor, okay? So let's talk about how we double our money and get cash flow. If we pay 10 million, I talked about the other day that generally speaking, we need 30% down on the deal. So we buy it for 10, we raise the 3 from a community of investors. We talked about that the other day. You need to be part of a community of investors to be able to raise the money, or you just need to have a lot of money, or you need to have 1 million Instagram followers like Cody Sperber that was on the challenge yesterday. The problem is most of us, including me, I have like 5,000 Instagram followers, okay? So I'm not able to raise money from all my millions of Instagram followers, so I belong to communities of investors. I've created a community of investors. So it's easy for people that are in a community of investors to raise money. It's an easy thing to do. And so we could come up with a 3 million of equity. We could get the 7 million of debt. So that's the 10 million, how we buy the deal. Now within a year, the property could be worth 13 million. That's an increase of 3.1 million in equity. So we're 2 timesing our down payment. So the way we get 2 times is I put up 3 million of investor equity, and that 3 million is now worth 6 million. Now, if I'm a GP in the deal, and the GP's getting the 20% split of the profit, What's 20% of 3 million? It's on the slide. It's 600,000. So this is an example about how by being a general partner and by willing to roll up your sleeves, invest in yourself, learn to understand the deal, learn to find deals, learn to raise the money, learn to manage the deals, or partner with people and be a co-general partner. And this is how you're going to make a lot of income and get wealthy by being an apartment investor. Now, let's talk about cash flow, because is cash flow important? Yes, it's important. We need cash flow to live. That's why most of us had jobs at one point or another. I mean, we heard Bobby Castro's story. My first job, I was a dishwasher. And then I was a pot washer. And then I went to college. And I worked in the cafeteria. And I mean, I worked ever since I was 13 years old. And I went to college and got a job. And I got an MBA and got another job. And I was trading my time for money. And then when I became an investor, I'm investing my money and I'm getting back my time. On day one, we talked about the rich invest money to save time. Okay? And the middle class invest their time to earn money or to save money. So cash flow is important, and so we're investing in deals that provide cash flow. So building on the same example, we pay $10 million, we put $3 million down. We have the acquisition NOI at $500,000. The new NOI, once we take over the deal, is now $655,000. Now we introduce the debt payment. And based on a $7 million loan and a 3% rate and 30-year amortization, which is pretty typical right now in today's market, our principal and interest is going to be about $355,000. So we take the NOI of $655,000, subtract from it the debt payment of $355,000, and now we have our $300,000 cash flow. That is a 10% return on $3 million down. Does that see how I got $300,000 cash flow and how 10% of the $3 million down payment? Blow up the Facebook chat and let me know you see that and understand it. Man, I love seeing all the hearts and all the thumbs up in the Facebook group. I love seeing it. Hey, I'm getting a request, folks, in the back. Could we increase the size of the slide? Okay, I'm getting a few comments on here. If we can make that bigger so everybody can see that. So we'll have our tech team here make sure they work on that for all of you that are watching from home, which are, majority of you that are watching on Facebook Live. Now, here's the other thing about being a GP. Of that $300,000 cash flow, talking about the 80-20 split that we introduced yesterday, the LPs are going to get 80%. So $240,000 of that is going to be divvied up to all the passive investors, and $60,000 is going to go to the general partner or the co-general partners. So I shared with you that whole breakdown yesterday about all the different ways the GP gets paid. And today I'm kind of breaking it down for you in a different way so you can see the numbers presented differently. So that's how we do the cash flow. Now the third part, and perhaps my favorite, is I'm going to share with you how we've legally paid 0 taxes for 4 years in a row, going on 5. Okay? And there's a few concepts I want to introduce about how taxes work with commercial assets like apartment buildings. So number one is whatever you pay for the property needs to be broken down into land value versus improved value. So land you can't depreciate. So in this example, we're assuming that land is 10% of the value and the building and the improvements are 90% of the value. So if we paid 10, in this example, the improved value is $9 million. Now, if we did straight line depreciation, that means that every year we could take the same amount every year, and being that apartment buildings are residential property, we could take the same amount every year and get to 0 after 27.5 years. So what that means is we take $9 million divided by 27.5 years, and we could take a $327,000 a year loss. Now, this is not a real loss from your bank account. It's not a real loss out of your checkbook. It's not a real loss out of your pocket, but it's a loss on your book value of your asset when you do your accounting, when you do your tax returns. So the government lets you on paper, legally, decrease the value of your property. But the market value, as we talked about, is actually going up because we're buying it for 10 and it's worth 13 in a few years. And I showed you how that works, right? But on your tax returns, the property is going down on book value. So in this same example, if we have a $300,000 cash flow and a $327,000 loss, number one, we pay no tax on the cash flow we receive, number one. Number two, we have a net loss carryover of $27,000 that we could use to offset other income. Now, here's the deal. This is good. How many people like this? How many of you on Facebook like this? Let me see a thumbs up. It gets so much better. This is just step one. Because you see, within an apartment building, there are items in an apartment building that are considered personal property. And personal property depreciates faster than real property. And so what we do is we hire a cost segregation company. They go into the apartment building and they identify property that is personal property that depreciates over 5 years. They identify property that depreciates over 15 years. And they identify the property that depreciates over 27.5 years. So for example, things like appliances, countertops, cabinets, fixtures, air conditioning units, flooring, all these things depreciate faster than the real property itself. Some of these things depreciate over 5 and 15 years. And so the company goes in, and what they call it is cost segregation, because they're segregating the 5-year, the 15-year, and the 27-year property. And the end result is that you get about double the amount of depreciation, double. So instead of getting $327,000 of depreciation in each year, you're going to get, the first few years, you're going to get double that. You're going to get about $654,000. So you don't pay tax on your $300,000 in cash flow, and you have now a much larger net loss that you could use to offset some of your income. So how many people like the cost segregation idea? Let me see a thumbs up. Thumbs up for cost segregation. Hey, could we put that slide back up there? Guys, AV team, I keep getting comments. They need to see the slide a little bit bigger. Thank you. So you guys could take a picture of that. It gets better than this. It gets so much better. How many of you are aware that in 2017, a new tax law passed, and it was even more advantageous for business owners, investors? Are any of you aware of that? Give me a thumbs up. All you guys here in Napa, y'all aware of this, right? Oh, yeah. We just had my good friend Tom Wheelwright here in Napa teaching us about the latest pending tax laws, teaching us about taking losses from real estate and offsetting income. And what we do here is from January 2018 until December of 2022, you could take all that 5 and 15-year property and accelerate it and take it into the year of acquisition. I'll say that again. Up until December 2022, this is why we call this the Invest in Apartments Now Challenge. Not invest tomorrow, not wait until the crash, not wait until 2023. Invest in apartments now, because apartments have the best tax advantages for this 5-year period, 2018 to the end of 22, than ever existed before in my lifetime. And I'm 54 years old, and I've been invested in apartments for 20 years. Okay? So we do this cost segregation study, and all that 5 and 15-year property could be accelerated into year 1. So same example, we buy that $10 million deal. We have $9 million of improved value. All that 5 and 15-year property could be taken the year of acquisition, so that's a $3.1 million loss. After you deduct it from your positive cash flow, it's still $2.85 million. This is how me and Jennifer have paid no tax for the last 4 years. We take our earned income and we put it into multifamily properties. We do cost segregation, and we take all that income that we earn, and it's offset by the depreciation loss. And as long as we keep investing our earned income, we keep offsetting our earned income with depreciation loss. So this is our strategy every year. This is why I invest 3 ways that I shared with you yesterday. This is why we buy our own deals with our own money, or actually more accurately, some deals we put up the majority